Let me ask you something straight up. Are you tired of living life like a victim of your circumstances? Because the truth is, you were never created to be average. You weren't made to just survive. You were designed to thrive, to dominate, and to rise above everything that's been trying to hold you down. You see, success doesn't start in your bank account, your job title, or your follower count. It starts in your mind. And until your mindset changes, your life cannot change. The battle is not outside of you, it's inside of you. But once you win that internal battle, you become unstoppable. Success begins long before you see the results. It doesn't show up the moment you get the job, close the deal, or drive the car. It starts in the invisible realm in your mind. Before success can manifest in your hands, it must first be built in your thoughts. The truth is, the most powerful thing a human being possesses isn't money, talent, or opportunity. It's the ability to choose how they think. Every action you take, every decision you make is the result of a thought you had first. That's why two people can grow up in the same environment, face the same limitations, and yet end up with completely different lives. One saw a limitation and accepted it. The other saw a limitation and decided to rise above it. The difference wasn't opportunity, it was mindset. What you see in your mind is a preview of what you'll experience in your life. Your mind is the command center for your future. It tells you what's possible and what's not. It decides what to pursue and what to avoid. If your mind is programmed with fear, lack, and limitation, then every time opportunity shows up, you'll find a reason to back away. But if your mind is rooted in abundance, purpose, and faith, you'll see possibility even in the middle of pressure. You'll find doors where other people only see walls. A person who believes they are created for greatness will behave differently than someone who's accepted mediocrity as their identity. Belief becomes behavior. When your thoughts are aligned with growth, vision, and faith, your actions naturally follow. You begin to show up with a different energy. You speak differently. You carry yourself like someone who expects to win, even before there's any evidence. The challenge most people face is that their mind has been shaped by survival, not success. They've been taught to play it safe, not to take risks. They've been conditioned to think small, to avoid disappointment, to stay in the lane of what's realistic. But success doesn't come from staying realistic. It comes from shifting your thinking into what's possible. It comes from asking yourself, what if I can? Instead of constantly saying, what if I can't? Thoughts are seeds and your life is the harvest. If you constantly sow fear, comparison, doubt, and insecurity, you'll reap a life filled with those exact things. But when you start planting thoughts of discipline, creativity, vision, and resilience, the results will reflect that. The harvest doesn't lie. Your life is always echoing the story your mind has been telling for years. Changing your life starts with challenging your thoughts. You have to catch the lie before it becomes a limitation. When you hear that inner voice telling you you're not good enough, that's not truth. That's programming. And programming can be rewritten. You can start speaking new words, focusing on new possibilities, and feeding your mind a new blueprint that leads to victory instead of defeat. You don't need a new environment before you change your mind. You don't need people to believe in you first. You don't need to wait until the conditions are perfect, because what's happening around you is not as powerful as what's happening inside you. Your mind has the power to turn a setback into a comeback, a closed door into a redirection, and a delay into preparation. Most people spend their lives reacting to circumstances, but those who rise to the top are the ones who have mastered their internal environment. They've made up their mind that nothing on the outside will control what's going on inside, and because of that, they become a force that shifts everything around them. They don't wait for change, they become the change. Everything changes when you realize you are not a prisoner of your situation. You are a product of your mindset. And when you change the way you think, you change the way you live. It won't be instant. It won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Because success always begins quietly, powerfully in the mind. Wanting something isn't enough. Desire by itself is powerless without belief to fuel it. Every single day people say they want more money, more freedom, better relationships, a bigger life. But if their internal belief doesn't match that desire, they'll find themselves stuck in the same place year after year. The world doesn't respond to your wishes, it responds to your belief. Your life is not a reflection of what you say you want, it's a mirror of what you truly believe you deserve and can have. Belief is a magnetic force. It draws things to you or repels them based on the signal you're sending out. You might say, I want to be wealthy, but if deep down you believe money is hard to get or that you're not worthy of abundance, then you'll unconsciously sabotage your opportunities. You won't follow through, you won't make the calls, you'll procrastinate, doubt yourself, and back out before the breakthrough. Not because you didn't want it, but because your belief wasn't strong enough to carry you through the resistance. The mind is designed to prove you right. Whatever you believe, your brain starts searching for evidence to support it. If you believe you're not qualified, you'll find every reason to play small. If you believe success is reserved for other people, you'll interpret rejection as confirmation. But when you believe you're chosen, capable, and backed by something greater than yourself, even setbacks start to look like setups. Belief doesn't remove obstacles, it redefines them. You'll never rise higher than your identity, and identity is shaped by belief. When you identify as someone who always falls short, always gets overlooked, always loses, guess what happens? You recreate that narrative over and over, not because it's true, but because your belief system insists on being right. But when you adopt a new identity, one rooted in purpose and power, your actions shift to align with that new standard. You no longer tolerate the things that kept you bound. There's a reason why two people with the same talent and resources can live completely different lives. One believes they're destined for more, the other thinks they're stuck. That belief gap determines the energy they bring into every room, the risks they're willing to take, and how they respond to failure. One sees every no as rejection, the other sees it as redirection. Same environment, different mindset, and therefore different outcome. Want is passive, belief is active. Wanting is easy, believing costs something. It requires courage, persistence, and vision. You have to be willing to believe before you see, before the money shows up, before the people support you, before the opportunity opens. That's what separates those who dream from those who do. They didn't wait to believe until it was convenient. They believed when it was inconvenient, when it made no sense, when it looked impossible. Belief creates momentum. It ignites action. It keeps you moving when the voices in your head tell you to give up. People who believe in what they're building don't stop because they don't see results right away. They understand that belief is the seed and results are the harvest. And just like any harvest, there's a delay between planting and reaping. If you quit during that delay, you cancel your own breakthrough. Sometimes the biggest belief battle isn't about the goal. It's about whether you believe you're worthy of having it. Many people subconsciously reject success because somewhere in their story, they were taught to play small, to feel guilty for wanting more, to shrink themselves to make others comfortable. So they chase goals, but never catch them because internally, they don't feel qualified to hold what they're reaching for. And until that belief shifts, the cycle continues. You don't get what you want because wanting doesn't move mountains. Belief does. Belief turns vision into reality, dreams into deadlines, and hope into habits. Without belief, even the best strategy will fall apart. But with belief, even imperfect plans can succeed because belief gives birth to consistency, and consistency produces results. That's why some people with less talent or fewer connections still rise. They believed when no one else did, and that belief gave them the endurance to win. What you believe sets the thermostat of your life. You might get inspired and turn it up temporarily with a seminar or a quote, but if your belief is set low, you'll eventually fall back to that level. The only way to raise the temperature permanently is to rewire your internal settings, your self-esteem, your worth, your expectations. That work isn't flashy. It's not always visible. But it's the difference between a life that's wished for and a life that's lived. Discipline is the invisible force that shapes extraordinary lives. It's not loud, it's not glamorous, and it doesn't always feel good, but it's the foundation for everything that lasts. While most people are chasing motivation, the ones who actually win are the ones who built discipline into their daily routine. Discipline doesn't ask how you feel, it decides based on what you said you would do. That's what separates winners from wishers. Distraction is the silent killer of dreams. It doesn't always look like failure. In fact, it often wears the disguise of productivity. Things that feel important, but don't actually move you forward. Distraction pulls you into scrolling, reacting, and chasing things that don't align with your purpose. It steals your focus 1 minute at a time until entire months go by and nothing has changed. And because it's subtle, most people don't even realize it's happening until they're far off course. The world is engineered to distract you. Every platform, every ping, every notification is designed to pull your attention away from your purpose. But here's the truth. Your purpose requires privacy. It requires focus. It requires the kind of discipline that says, no, I don't need to check that right now. I've got something bigger I'm building. When you understand the cost of distraction, you'll treat your time like it's sacred, because it is. Discipline is how you build trust with yourself. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, your confidence grows. You start to believe that when you say something, you'll follow through. But every time you choose distraction over discipline, you weaken that trust. You train your brain to expect inconsistency. That's why so many people live in cycles. They're stuck not because they lack ability, but because they've never trained themselves to follow through consistently. The breakthrough you're waiting for doesn't come from doing something big once. It comes from doing something small over and over again with discipline. Whether it's waking up early, writing the content, making the call, studying the craft. Those daily decisions compound. Over time, they create momentum. And momentum is where transformation lives. But it can't be accessed without discipline. There is no shortcut to sustained success. Discipline also protects your energy. When you have clear boundaries around your time and attention, you stop saying yes to everything and everyone. You stop wasting your focus on things that don't move the needle. You learn to prioritize what's essential and let go of the rest. That's not being selfish, it's being strategic. Because the more diluted your energy is, the less impact you can make in the areas that matter most. One of the biggest lies people believe is that they need to feel ready in order to act. But discipline is not about waiting for readiness. It's about moving regardless of how you feel. Some of the most successful days you'll ever have will be on the days you felt the least motivated. That's the power of discipline. It gives you the ability to rise above your emotions and stay aligned with your mission. Discipline creates structure. And structure gives birth to freedom. That may sound backwards, but it's the truth. When your life has systems, when your days have intentionality, you create space for growth. You eliminate chaos, you remove uncertainty, and that structure allows your creativity and potential to thrive. Discipline is not restriction. It's the container that holds your greatness in place long enough to produce fruit. In a distracted world, the person who can stay focused holds the advantage. Because while others are busy reacting to everything that comes their way, the disciplined individual is building quietly, consistently, intentionally. They're not swayed by noise. They're not shaken by trends. They've trained themselves to keep their eyes on the prize, and because of that, they move faster, hit harder, and last longer. Choosing discipline over distraction isn't a one-time decision. It's a lifestyle. It's a mindset that says my future matters more than my moment. It's a commitment to becoming the person your goals require. It's understanding that the cost of success is not just paid once. It's paid daily in focus, in sacrifice, in silence. And the ones who pay it, they're the ones who rise. Pain is a language that every successful person learns to speak fluently. It's the price of growth, the fire that forges character, and the test that separates the committed from the curious. Pain doesn't show up to destroy you, it shows up to develop you. But most people run from it. They misinterpret pain as a sign to stop, when in reality, it's often the clearest sign that they're right where they're supposed to be. The process is never comfortable, but it is necessary. Every time you try to level up, pain will greet you at the door. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something different. Change is uncomfortable. Stretching hurts. Breaking old patterns requires emotional and mental resistance. But if you don't push through that resistance, you'll keep living the same life in a different year. You'll keep dreaming about breakthrough while settling for survival. The most dangerous mistake people make is assuming that pain means they've taken a wrong turn. But growth is supposed to hurt. When a seed breaks through the soil, it breaks. When a muscle gets stronger, it tears. When a new version of you is being formed, the old version has to die, and that process isn't painless. The difference between those who make it and those who don't isn't talent or luck. It's the decision to endure the pain without giving up. Quitting is the easiest way to guarantee that the pain you're going through becomes meaningless. Pain without purpose is just suffering, but pain with vision becomes transformation. When you understand that what you're going through is preparing you for what you prayed for, it gives your struggle context. You realize that this isn't the end, it's training. And the harder the training, the greater the assignment. There will be moments when quitting looks like relief, when silence seems better than the noise of failure, and comfort starts to look more appealing than calling. But comfort is a liar. It never tells you about the cost of settling. It never shows you the long-term price of walking away from what you were born to build. Quitting doesn't end the pain. It just exchanges it for regret. And regret is far heavier than discipline ever will be. Those who overcome aren't stronger than everyone else. They're just more committed. They've decided that pain will not be the thing that breaks them, it will be the thing that builds them. They use it as fuel. They don't numb it. They don't avoid it. They face it head on because they understand that what they're becoming is more important than what they're feeling. Their eyes are on the outcome, not the obstacle. Every success story is a story of someone who kept going. They cried, they struggled, they failed, but they refused to stop. They kept showing up when no one noticed. They kept believing when nothing worked. They kept pressing forward when every voice said to quit. And eventually the process produced a version of them that was strong enough to handle the success that was waiting on the other side. Pain is temporary, but quitting makes it permanent. If you can survive the temporary discomfort, you'll eventually reach a place where the process begins to pay you back. You'll look back and realize that every sleepless night, every lonely moment, every disappointment was actually making you stronger, wiser, and more focused. The very thing you thought was trying to take you out was actually setting you up. Too many people stop just before the breakthrough. They walk away when it gets